Welcome back, Hypno Junkies, to more Chaos Head Noah. Well, we got 2 character endings. We got 4 more to go. Certainly enjoyed the Yua one a little bit more than the Nanami one. The Yua one was a little bit predictable, but how it got there was interesting. And we got some interesting moments there. Kind of funny how Yua is sort of Mia's Nanami, honestly. The annoying, well, I guess Yua's the older sister, not the younger one, but still. The mannerisms, the parallels are there. But anyway, time for some Ayase. I'm curious where this one's going to go. Ayase, even more than I would say Yua or Senna, is sort of a woman on a mission. I'm curious how much of her interest in the whole gladiole thing is going to play into this. We have some info on her backstory already, the mental institution and all that. But as far as just where is this going to go as far as the mission that she's on, and how is that going to tie into the finale? Because I still have a feeling that's going to be a pretty big part of that fight with gladiole or whatever. So I don't think I have any other thoughts off the top of my head. I think we're just going to get right into it. Funnily enough, that whole delusion where I kept giving Ayase crap for taking off all her clothes in the middle of the concert, we need to go back to that delusion, but now pick the other option. So when I joked that it's like, well, what's the other option? We all put down blankets and read Bible stories. I guess we're going to find out what it is. In 3, 2, 1... And here we are at the Phantasm concert. And Fess is on stage and she's doing her thing. She's swinging around her mic stand. We are, of course, here because we were doing our research and found out about the prophetic lyrics. So with Mizumi, and Fess is looking at me. I am not going to click the green option this time. We had enough of that last time. This time, we're going to be Mr. Negative. And I'm very curious where this goes and what it's going to lead to. And it wasn't like she was just looking at me, glancing at me in the general direction of my eyes, or like she briefly made eye contact. Fess was blatantly looking right at me in the middle of the Phantasm concert. I'd even go so far as to say she was staring at me, fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart, as if deciding whether or not she should take off all her clothes and come whisper sweet nothings in my ear. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet somehow she seemed a little sad. Okay, what have we locked in? What are we in for? Before I knew it, I was slowly walking on a rooftop, all alone. The wind was extremely strong, blowing raindrops into me from the side. Interesting. This is clearly a delusion. I mean, the last option, when we picked green, was also a delusion. Is it our delusion or Fess's delusion? Is this a premonition of her jumping off the roof? What was strange, though, was that I didn't feel cold. I remembered this place. It felt like I had been there many times before. I feel like this is the rooftop of the school. Yeah, the school rooftop. I knew where this was now, just like Psy'Min Sezz. It was surrounded by a fence, dreary scenery. It was the school rooftop. I took a look around me. But the rain had made everything so hazy, I couldn't make out anything. Actually, it wasn't raining when Ayase jumped, so I take that back. It was surreal. It felt like the world itself had become blurred. Oh! Man, everyone's just wearing interesting new outfits in their character routes now. Hey, you! Beyond the haze, on the other side of the fence, was Fess. No, you shouldn't be over there. She was standing there facing me, and she was soaking wet. She was looking straight at me, just like at the concert. And in her right arm, just like before, she was gripping that sword-like mic stand tightly. We're still under the impression it's a mic stand. The wind blowing from below sent Fess's soaked hair fluttering furiously in the air. If she even slightly lost her balance, she would definitely fall. And at this height, that would be a death sentence. Just looking at her made me stop dead in my tracks. I wonder if this is going to alter the later events. And yet, despite where she was, Fess stood tall, without the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. Hey, you, where's your sword? On the verge of tears, Fess gently extended her left hand toward me. Let's jump off together. What's with girls asking me to jump off roofs with them? No. No, this is a terrible first date. It was almost as if she was asking me to go with her, trying to seduce me. No, thank you. Can't we just grab some Mickey D's? Oh, we have options. We have things we need to pick. Fess must be asking me for salvation. Possibly? Okay, I want to give in to Fess's seduction. I don't actually want to give in to Fess's seduction. I would rather stay on the roof if that's all the same to you. I'm sure jumping off would feel amazing. I don't know about that. I'm not sure jumping off would feel amazing. But I'm going to be quite honest with you. Apparently, we need to pick some more yeses to get the Ayase route. So, you know what? Jumping off might feel amazing. The landing, not so much, flower bed or otherwise. But guide says yes. I don't care if I die as long as it's together with Fess. You literally just met this girl. All right, delusions away. Our boy's already in love. I want to be set free from everything. Well, we're just buying in wholeheartedly with this girl who's literally just looking at us from the stage. Discovered Ayase's story. We locked in, boys. Apparently, the achievement's called Pound in the Steak. I'm not sure why I need to pound any steaks. But, yeah, I guess we've convinced Ayase that we can trip her flag. So, don't jump off the roof, though. I couldn't give any response. I had no idea what to do. Fess said nothing back to me either. She just spread her arms out wide, taking on a pose as if she'd been crucified. Going back to the concert? Never mind. Suddenly the rain and the wind stopped. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Nothing would come out of my mouth. Again, maybe this is a premonition toward when she jumps. Like 5 chapters from now or whatever. Fess's body slowly tilted backward. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I tried to reach out toward Fess. We don't even know her real name yet. We just keep calling her Fess. But my own movements were in slow motion too, so I could only look on in frustration as my arms slowly extended out in front of me. Fess was already closing her eyes. And not long after, her figure disappeared from my line of sight. Well, no flower bed for you this time. God, that's depressing. Yeah, no kidding. I've been getting lost in my own delusions as usual, but it had all gone south pretty quickly. Well, that just goes to show how strong the aura Fess gave off truly was. I wonder how this delusion is going to impact anything. I understand the erasing of whose eyes are those eyes on the blackboard affected the Yua route, because that got spelled out pretty nicely. This one, I'm a little clueless. She sort of had this sense of ruinous beauty to her. There's a term. That said, I didn't have the slightest fucking clue what ruinous beauty was supposed to mean, though. Lol, lol, lol. Okay. Saws Lamau. In the end, I got sick from the size of the crowd at that concert, so I had to rush to leave the venue. As a result, I'd barely watched any of the performance at all, and honestly, I never wanted to go ever again. Well then, guess I'll log on to ESO or something. That ought to rid me of this depression. God, I still gotta do my Guild Wars 2 dailies. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place, a breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. And I guess we'll let our boy do his grind while we see where our next stop is. Hopefully we get some Fess interludes, so Iki, take it away. And we are back. So I think this is actually just before we meet Ayase at school. We just finished the scene. We're in Chapter 3. Just finished the scene where Nanami almost got run over because some rucksack guy seemed to entrance her into walking into traffic or whatever. And that would normally mean us running into Ayase in the hallway for the first time when Mizumi's like, dude, guess who goes to our school? It's Ayase! And then we meet Bon for the first time and then Remy for the first time. So I guess now we're just having a quick little interlude with Ayase even before we meet her. She's just coming in. As morning progressed, Kishimoto Ayase stood before the school gate, watching the sky absent-mindedly. Students passed by on either side, and she paid no attention to the strange looks she received from them. Her gaze was full of emptiness. From her perspective, school was utterly pointless. Her reasoning being, she knew the world would end very soon. So yeah, touching on this. Even as a third year, she felt out of place wearing a school uniform. This was no time to be attending school. Third year? So why is she in the classroom next to us? She should be on the next floor up by Yua. So she believed. Still, she occasionally went in order to continue her search. Her search for the gate and the other Black Knights. So apparently the gate is found by jumping off a roof. But yeah, looking for the other Black Knights. One of which might be me. Hey, why were you staring at me? Let's get some thoughts on that. Sume Academy was the place where the Black Knights would gather. Or rather, it was the place where they would be gathered. That was the conclusion she had reached. How did you reach that? From a young age, Ayase had been seen as a problem child. She never finished middle school, thus preventing her from enrolling in high school. In spite of this, she transferred into Sume Academy during May of her first year, a day she remembered vividly, even now. Flashback? She had stood before the gate on that day, just as she was now. Until then, she had been institutionalized by Arkheart Medical. Yeah, not good times. During that time, she endured a hellish trial in order to become a Black Knight. In order to become a Black Knight? Was that something that just ended up happening, or was that something you knew you needed to go through? 1 month of psychiatric treatment later, she was finally discharged. Was she discharged, or did the hospital go out of business or something? The hospital's director, something about it fell apart, I can't remember, and then it got rebranded. A man whose name she had long since forgotten spoke to her at that time. Starting tomorrow, you'll be attending high school in Shibuya at Sume Academy. I've done all the work needed to enroll you already. She was not told why. Those words are still in her mind. The day she had arrived before the school gate, she murmured something to herself. The heavens shall be dyed in red by the quickening of the wicked-hearted king. 7 dark, wicked hearts shall face birth in concord with this hour, for they are soon summoned to the Holy Land. So, dark, wicked hearts. Wicked hearts, or... It almost seems like troubled hearts, considering everyone seems to be having some mental health crises or whatever. Ironically, Nanami seems to be the the one who's least that least applies to. Everyone else is pretty messed up. Nanami minorly, relatively speaking. And it will come to pass, O nightmares, O calamity, O darkened cadavers torn asunder. Are you quoting from that book of Psalms and Revelations? That wicked hearts shall slay one another, and so will be shattered the world under the wicked-hearted king's dominion. You're just saying this in front of the gate. This isn't just some little muttering to yourself. You're giving a sermon. People are going to start giving you looks. They were verses of the legend from the Gladiol book of Psalms and Revelation. Yep. A prophecy Ayase had taken to heart. Where did you learn this stuff? One she uttered only because she knew now for certain. This was the gathering place of the Black Knights, as it turns out, correct. Thus she would continue waiting. Thus she would continue searching. And as time passed, she had never felt a single trace of wickedness, until now. At last she could sense a presence, the presence of a potential Black Knight. A trace of wickedness, my God, it's Mizumi. It had certainly kept her waiting, but the change was wholly a welcome one. Time is already growing short. Gladiol's resurrection is almost upon us. Her words a faint, quiet murmur, another Black Knight. With this thought, Ayase passed through the gate, seeking the boy she had met at the concert venue. Ah. Is that why she noticed us in the back? She just had this feeling. She could sense our energy, Dragon Ball style. I continued to ignore Nanami until we got to school, upon which I ditched her to walk down the noisiest ever hallway toward my classroom. I'm not sure if this is a skippable part, but we're about to run into Ayase, so let's just let it rock. When walking down the hallway, stay along the edge, don't walk too fast or too slow, don't make eye contact with anyone. Those were the 3 rules I always followed. That was how I didn't stand out in school. I transformed myself into an existence akin to air itself. That was the secret to success.
Yo, Taku.
Yo, Taku! Yet, people like him definitely made it hard for it to actually work. Catching up to me from behind, Mizumi-kun greeted me in his normal, overly friendly fashion by clapping a hand on my shoulder.
Oisa!
What's up? How's it going? Come on, you could at least greet me back. Well, whatever. I already know you're not really that kind of guy. Hey, remember the chick I was talking about a couple weeks back? From Class D? You know, the super cute one that doesn't come to school that often?
Huh?
Yeah? Her name's Kishimoto Ayase. Anyway, I discovered something absolutely insane about her. She doesn't think I'm wicked. Isn't that weird? I'm probably the most wicked guy here. But no sword for me. Mizumi-kun suddenly lowered his voice, then looked around us. It was just going to be something vulgar, wasn't it? Already tired of his BS, I almost let out a sigh. So you know Fess, right? But what he said made me bite it back. That Kishimoto chick, she is Fess! That really threw me for a loop. I can't believe Fess is a student at our school. And did you know she's in the same year as us, too? I thought she was a year 3. Aren't you guys year 2s? For whatever reason, Mizumi-kun leaned his upper body out the window, then gazed up toward the sky with a look of pure ecstasy. Yay, a new conquest. This has to be that fate thing everyone's always talking about. I bet she's into that. This was the 3rd floor. If he were to slip, he'd fall to the ground and break his neck, ending his life just like that. My anxiety steadily climbed as I watched him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you as a year 4 were a year 3. Is Naomi a year 2? Maybe Nanami's a year 2. Mizumi-kun leaned far... No, wait. Aren't we in 2B or 2C or something? Yeah, we're year 2s. Mizumi-kun leaned farther and farther and farther out the window before switching his gaze down toward the entrance beneath it. Oh shit! Speak of the devil, Taku! I see Kishimoto! She'll be here any minute now! Huh? With so many coincidences piled up one after another, maybe it really was fate, not that I cared. Alright! I'll be waiting to pounce on her here. I'll show you a thing or two about picking up chicks. Now, watch me work. Are you sure you're not the wicked one? I feel like Ayase's radar needs recalibrating. He was brimming with self-confidence. Man, alpha males like him really were impressive. Picking up girls and all that was a completely different world to me. It wasn't even worth trying. I'm not even sure how much of this is different yet. I just want to let the scene play out. Yep, there you are. A few moments later, Fess, Kishimoto Ayase, appeared. It was just like Mizumi-kun said, she really was Fess. I made sure of that while observing her from a safe distance. I still couldn't believe she was in the same year as us. She was wearing a sume uniform. A distinct aloofness came from her expression as she walked slowly down the hallway. It gave off a completely different impression than the one she'd had on stage. Back then, despite her apathetic tone, I'd felt a sense of power and liveliness emanating off of her. But now that aura she gave off felt listless and unapproachable. Ignoring this, likely deliberately, Mizumi-kun strolled over to her with the same overly friendly attitude he always had with me, then casually stopped right next to her.
Yo, Kishimoto-san.
Yo, Kishimoto-san, good morning! Whoa, his smile was so invigorating despite being so obviously fake. I had no idea how he was able to act like that around someone he barely knew. That's why we love him. That's why we admire him. Then again, I didn't really want to be him. What is that a reference from? I forget. I know it's also in Steins Gate. Daru says it a couple of times.
あ、俺、三角大輔。
Oh yeah, I'm
よろしく。
Mizumi Daisuke. Nice to finally meet you.
おっと。初対
Oh,
面とか
wait.
思ってるだろ。
That might make you think we haven't met before, right? But nope, not true.
俺さ、こないだ。
So, I went to a Phantasm concert the other day, and you know what that means. It means it's our second time seeing each other.
で、その時君の
And I just want to say, your voice from back then, how do I put
ビビっ
this?
てきちゃったんだ。
It gave me the chills. I still feel like Ayase is standing on a crate or something. Look at their legs. Look at where their waists are in relation to each other. Ayase's got to be like a foot shorter than him, but they're on the same level. Get off the milk crate, Ayase. That's
別に
cheating.
俺ミーハーとかじゃねえよ。
And it's not like I'm the type of guy to follow the herd, you
君の
know?
可愛さとか
Sure, I was taken in by your lyrics and how cute you are and stuff like that. But what impressed me the most was how perfectly in sync you and your band were.
あの音あっての
Not even looking at you.
きついの？
You know, like how perfect their sound and your voice work together? You guys show me what real harmony's like.
ちなみに俺も実は
Fun fact
バンドや
about
りたいな
me,
って思っててさ
I've always wanted to start a band.
ああいう
So if it's
いい
cool with
バンド
you,
を見つけるコツ
could
とか
you tell me how to
バン
find
ド
some
先輩としては心得
bandmates
みたいなものを
or any other tips you think I should know?
今すぐじゃ迷惑だろうから
Oh, but that's kind of putting you on the spot, isn't it? So maybe
放
not.
課後とか暇
Wait, I know. Are you free after school today? How about we go and take some time to talk about it? Mizumi-kun just kept on talking and talking with no breaks. His tone was different than usual, and it was obviously fake. Not only that, but he wasn't hitting on her directly, instead using the band angle in order to invite her somewhere nonchalantly. I'd never heard this fun fact about Mizumi-kun wanting to start a band before. It had to be a lie. He was willing to go that far in order to win some points, to force a flag rather than obtain it naturally. But I don't remember there being a delusion here. Fess didn't even so much as look at him. Alright, I guess there's a delusion here. She simply continued to walk down the hallway at the same pace as if not a sound had reached her ears.
なあ
Hey! Are you listening? No. Suddenly, Fess stopped in her tracks. Her slightly lowered gaze slowly rose up, and then she looked at me. Again. Huh? Me? Come to think of it, the same thing had happened at the concert. It had felt like Fess was staring directly at me. I feel like this is a delusion that we haven't seen before. As far as I know, there's nothing I need to pick. We got the achievement for unlocking Ayase's route, so I guess we'll just let it rock. Fess was staring directly at me again. Well, I mean, she's looking at you now because you're standing there and she's going to talk to you. Just in general, I've been stared at by a whole bunch of freaky 3D girls over the past couple of weeks. God, what the hell was going on? Was I becoming popular now? I am the Mizumi. Naturally, I averted my eyes, so I'd only met her gaze for just a second.
見つけて早く
Your sword. Find it. Quickly. I found the Black Knight. He doesn't have a sword. This is a problem. Suddenly, Fess spoke. Very little energy could be felt from her apathetic tone. I had no idea if those words were directed at me or Mizumi.
くん
What? A sword? I need to find a sword? Okay.
そうすれば
If you
君
do,
は救われる
you shall be granted salvation. When she finished whispering at what seemed like no one in particular, her eyes returned to the floor, and she began to walk away. She slipped straight past me and entered Class D. Mizumi-kun and I watched her go, the two of us completely and utterly lost.
なあタグ
Hey! Taku! Mizumi-kun was very clearly sulking. In the end, despite his efforts, Fess hadn't paid any attention to him at all. It must have been pretty rough to have her completely ignore his entire existence. But of course I was used to that kind of thing.
俺は
Oh, I've never had my pride torn to shreds like this before.
自信なくすぜ
You've lost your touch, Daisuke! Damn it!
ちょっと有名人
What a
だから調子
bitch!
乗りやがって
All full of yourself just because you're a little famous.
あんな不愛想な女
I wouldn't even bother trying to get with an antisocial bitch like her. Oh yes, you will try again. We know. We know the hospital scenes.
あーうぜえ。
God damn it, this sucks ass.
大体何が剣を
What
見
was
つけ
up
ろ
with that finding a sword
Okay,
shit
okay.
anyway? Made no sense to me. A sword. Could that possibly be referring to that mic stand thing she'd been using during the concert? Come to think of it, there'd been another person a couple of days ago that interrogated me about a sword. Senna! Yeah, you. That's Senna girl, the one who was absolutely terrifying. Can't wait for your route. I'd actually thought she was going to slice me in two. The sword she'd been carrying was a different shape than the one Fess had, but they had a similar aura to them. Could the two of them be connected somehow? I didn't know. That was way too much shit I didn't know. Shogun, the Demon Girl, Yua, Fess, Senna, swords, Prophet. As was my old habit, I jotted down a list of all the things I didn't know enough about in my head. Well, I'm going to go ahead and assume the scene is done. I just wanted to touch on the Fess a little bit more because this is her route, her episode, so I guess we'll see where this picks up. Iki, take the wheel. And we're back. We have skipped quite a ways ahead. We are in chapter 7, I think. We just finished having Crunchy Coons with Kazupi and Senna. And as far as our interactions with Ayase, things pretty much went as they did. Minimal interactions with her in the hallway until we had to, until the earthquake, and then the jump off the roof pretty much went the same way it always did. Remy saw her get admitted at the hospital. We went to get our D-sword and failed. And, now we are going back to school. This is probably the second time we went back to school. The second time after the whole Esper Boy rescue quest. The first time we went, we were very embarrassed because everyone was pointing and laughing at us because we were a laughing stock, and that's when Kazupi kind of sympathized with us. And now I guess we're going back, and I'm assuming we came to school anyway for one reason and one reason only, and that's to see Remy. Yeah. But the E key dropped me off here, so maybe Ayase's out of the hospital? I don't know. I had no doubt that the DQNs in class would make fun of me just like they always did. It would definitely suck, but if it meant I could see Remy, I could endure it. Now, Remy is not going to be here, but the E key dropped me off here, so what's up? It was also possible that Shogun could show up again. He seemed to be playing with me like it was some kind of game after all. Maybe he'd feel like sending me on another quest soon. Just the thought alone terrified me. That wasn't Shogun, that was Shugun. I'd tried to grasp my D-sword, but even that was just to protect myself from him. Without that sword, how am I ever going to hope to escape his evil clutches? Maybe if Remy was by my side, like she said she would be. But, man, Remy not being around is just leaving us open for whoever happens to be passing. If Nanami's by my side, I'll be okay. If Yua's by my side, I'll be okay. I'm assuming if Ayase is by our side, we'll be okay. She'd been absent from school lately, which worried me. What if she'd been taken hostage, just like Nanami? Was there anyone out there who could help me? Like Ayase? Maybe? I entered the classroom with my head pointed straight at the floor. Before taking my seat, I took a quick look around. I looked toward Remy's seat first. Empty. Was she taking today off too? Was it really that simple? Was she really just taking time off? I began to feel anxious. Next, I looked at Kazupi's desk. There she is. She was in her seat, face down and huddled up. Ohayo, Takumi-san! Morning, Kazupi. I didn't make eye contact, but I greeted her with my inner voice. The female DQNs were watching me, smirking. Cunts. It was no different than yesterday. They'd already labeled me as the otaku freak who said he was psychic and made an ass of himself on TV, and that label wasn't going away anytime soon. The male DQNs didn't seem to have arrived yet. It was pretty common for them to skip first period, and that was fine by me. But Ayase, though, I took my seat. Suddenly, someone clapped me on the back. Mizumi? Yep.
Ooh.
What up, Taku? It was Mizumi-kun with an uncomfortable look on his face. His slap was a lot weaker than usual. You certainly had no issue ignoring me before. Why start paying attention to me now all of a sudden? I'm sure that you'll regret talking to me. You'll become the DQN's next target, just like me. Yes, Mizumi-kun, even you. You'd be better off not associating with an otaku freak like me. I remained silent, but Mizumi-kun forced a smile. Well, don't you look like shit. You're already this worn out this early in the morning? Well, I know you're just that kind of guy. As harsh as his words were, I didn't get the feeling that he was joking or acting sarcastic. After all, it was pretty common for him to say stuff like that. And about before... sorry about that. What's before? I had to hold on to whatever social cred I could, you know? You understand. Forget that, though. From now on, I'll treat you like I always have. Alright, good talk. See ya. He had an indifferent expression on his face. You seriously want to keep talking with me, same as always? Do you actually enjoy hanging out with an otaku freak like me, even though there's nothing to gain from it? Shh. Wait. Shit, I was actually getting wet now? If Mizumi-kun wanted to fuck me in the ass, I probably wouldn't have been able to say no. Okay, this is definitely new dialogue. No, you should say no. You should definitely say no. I know you're a bitch to basically everybody, but come on. Well, to be honest, I just figured being nice to you will help me stay popular with the ladies. Figures. He's kind enough to keep talking to human trash like him? What a dreamboat, swoon, you know? Mizumi Daisuke, go die in a hole. And to think I was this close to falling for you, full homo. Okay, this is definitely new dialogue. I'm not sure why. Ayase has nothing to do with this, but okay, full homo for Mizumi. Go, sure, why not? If you just didn't open your stupid mouth, nobody would have ever realized you were such a narcissist. Worst of all, as if I even needed to say it, was that it was totally in character. He was being completely sincere. And so, I finally cracked. My lips curved into a bitter smile. Am I gonna laugh? Oh yeah, did you hear about Kishimoto? Oh, tell me about Kishimoto. Apparently, she's still in the hospital. Her injuries weren't all that bad, but she's pretty messed up in the head. This should be already known dialogue. We're gonna go visit her. Listen up, Taku. You want to know the fastest way to a woman's heart? Act like you care in her moment of weakness. So, on that note, I'm seriously thinking about paying Kishimoto a visit. Yeah, so much for I'm not paying this bitch any more attention. Yeah. While we're at it, Taku, you know Kishimoto, right? You mind coming with me? Huh? It was the typical subject matter for Mizumi-kun, but that was beside the point. He'd mentioned Ayase. With Remy gone, maybe she was someone I could turn to. Exactly. We'll fall for anyone. Hell, we fell for Mizumi 2 seconds ago. Maybe I could depend on someone like her. I would not call Ayase dependable. Okay, we're done with that. Let us carry on. So we are in a new chapter. A contract of blood to seal our sin. Was that the name of the... something along those lines. Interesting name. Hang on a second. Yeah, there we go. Chapter 8, Ayase wrote, a contract of blood to seal our sin. So this is immediately after the scene with Narose, which was immediately after the scene that you just watched. And yeah, the 7th case just happened. And the Iki decided that was worth noting, so I wonder if the 7th case has changed. Because we saw the 6th case change on one situation there in the the Ua route. I don't think the 7th case is going to change much here because we ran into the DQNs. But what's going to be different here? It happened again, another new gen, but we are in Ayase's chapter. How long was this damn thing going to go on for? Was I next? Would I be the victim of the 8th case? The 9th? Anxiety aside, Grim was pretty much the new gen news guy at this point. As Grim would be. I know I've made that joke before, but you know. He'd been keeping me in the loop about basically everything. Even now, he was going out of his way to link a bunch of blog posts and news articles about it. Seemed like he really wanted me to take a look. Biting my lip, I reluctantly clicked the first link. And, yeah, basically all the same info from every other path. So, unemployed guy, college student, construction worker, ripped apart, DQN. Wait, it says DQN? You try to say it was one of us? Our boy, Nishiju will sniff him out anytime now. And on the news, at approximately 4:50 this morning near a railroad in Shibuya, a passing newspaper salesman discovered the bodies of 3 male homicide victims suspended from an iron pole. The police investigation discovered that the victims were all residents of Shibuya. Yeah, those 3 guys. Unemployed guy, college student guy, and construction worker guy. Each victim had been severed in half at the waist. Their upper and lower bodies were then interchanged with one another and stitched back together with thread. Fishing lines specifically. There were also mysterious wounds carved into their foreheads. The police are investigating the possibility that they may have been a message left by the culprit. The authorities believe the case is part of a series of grotesque murders that have been occurring in Shibuya over the past 2 months. The investigation is ongoing. So we did a lot of this retreading in the Yua route too, and I'm pretty sure Yua came up behind us shortly after this and basically took us captive. So I guess we'll be visiting Ayase soon, and I assume different things are going to happen there. At the end of the news clip, photographs of the 3 victims were shown. I had seen those faces before. It's them. The guys who beat me up yesterday. I'd given them my wallet, but they'd kicked my ass anyway. I'd then fallen unconscious, and when I woke up, Kazubi was beside me. The 3 of them had been collapsed on the ground, covered in blood. I dug my wallet out from my pocket and stared at it intently. When I came to, Kazubi had been carrying it, and she'd given it back to me soon after. Could the person who killed those 3 be... Giant Sword Girl? No, definitely not. The last time I'd seen them, they'd been beaten to a pulp and covered in blood, but they hadn't been cut in half or anything. Which would mean they'd been killed after Kazubi and I had left. It had to have been Shogun. That wrinkly asshole was trying to provoke me. Damn it, he really was committed to driving me insane. Just how far was he willing to go? I wanted to vomit. I clutched my stomach as it churned in pain. Was I next? Would I be next to die? Just the thought of it terrified me. Remy, save me, please. Where did you go? Weren't you supposed to protect me? Remy, it's because you took off that all this stuff keeps happening. Hi, Ayase. Kishimoto Ayase was lying in a hospital bed, idly gazing out the window. I'm not sure if this is new or not. This might be when Suwa comes in. No bars lined the outside of it, a fact which set it apart from those at Arkheart Medical, where Ayase had stayed in the past. All that stood past the window's frame was the landscape of Shinjuku, decorated by skyscrapers and illuminated by the sunset. Flocks of pigeons soared freely through the sky, flapping their wings to their heart's content. Every now and then, she would gaze upon this sight with a pained expression. Her slightly tired eyes were empty and bleak. Her irises reflected nothing. Her lips, which could let flow a voice so beautiful it shook the youth of Shibuya, were now sealed tight. Not even so much as a hum escaped from them. Not even any random verses and revelations. Following her suicide attempt, an event which caused quite the turmoil, she had been admitted to the psychiatric ward of a large hospital in Yoyogi. Her injuries were already very nearly healed. That was a really good flower bed. According to the doctors, it had been nothing short of a miracle that she had been able to survive a fall from that height, let alone with barely even a scratch. However, she had indeed hit her head fairly hard, and as such she had been rushed to the hospital, primarily so they could see how the situation would develop. It had already been over a week since then. However, despite her having been admitted for such a reason, all it seemed to entail were a few rudimentary tests taken every couple of days or so. Beyond that, she had been rather neglected. To be fair, there was a huge-ass earthquake, so these guys are probably pretty busy. Her hospital room was private, with no other beds inside it. Ever since her stay had begun, her D-sword had been leaning against the window. It constantly emitted a blue light, yet nobody who visited her ever seemed to notice. Not that there had been many visitors to begin with. Phantasm fans would attempt to force their way into her hospital daily, but as they always caused a disturbance in the process, the hospital had an excuse to forbid them from visiting her. I remember this text. And since Ayase was somewhat detached from her family, there were almost no others who came to visit her. Her fellow band members had made an appearance once, but Ayase used that opportunity to announce her decision for the band to break up. They had not contacted her again since. It's going to be Hazuki. Yep. Yeah, Hazuki's just wearing glasses now. We're just in the glasses route permanently from now on. Kishimoto-san, did your thermometer beep? A nurse wearing white scrubs and glasses opened the door to the room, then swiftly entered. Ayase slowly turned to look at the nurse's face, then took out the thermometer that had been resting under her arm. It was as if she had only just remembered its presence. The nurse took a look at the recorded temperature shown on its digital screen, and then took note of it on the clipboard she had brought with her. 37.1 degrees Celsius. You have a very slight fever. My head hurts. Ayase grimaced in pain once more. Oh dear, is your headache back? I'm afraid that's just a side effect of the medicine we gave you. It'll be gone before long, so try your best to ignore it. Having recorded her temperature, the nurse consoled Ayase with a kind smile. Her expression was so gentle it was clear to all how she was able to put her patients at ease. Yes, it's a very good act. Incidentally, considering that Ayase has been in this hospital and being tended to by Hazuki ever since the earthquake, it's almost a miracle she hasn't been one of the new-gen victims. I mean, Hazuki has very easy access to her. It would not take much effort. And yet, despite the nurse's attempts, Ayase simply pushed her hand against her forehead as she shook it back and forth. Ayase had been plagued by mild headaches ever since she had first been hospitalized. They were not especially painful, but they still left her with an uncomfortable feeling that refused to go away, one that felt as if her brain itself was convulsing. It even reached the point where her ability to think was impaired. As well as this, her body would feel as heavy as lead. Ayase had experienced such symptoms in the past, namely, when she had been institutionalized at Arcart Medical. I feel like some of this dialogue is redundant, but A, I don't think it's going to let us skip it because we're in a new chapter, and B, we're in a new chapter, so I'm just going to let it play out because we're here. We're doing Ayase things, so we're going to reiterate some of it. Back then, her head had constantly been split apart by painful headaches, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It deprived her of all sleep and emotional stability. Those were the memories she did not want to resurface. The past she had sealed away. The events of around 2 years ago. And yet her headache was causing them to flash back into her mind once more. Yep, that picture. It really does seem like the same helmet thing that Senna's mother was wearing. I need to see that thing again. In them, a dark room, its single window locked behind bars. Apart from the wall in which that window stood, the rest of the walls were covered with mirrors. Ayase had been placed in the center of the room, sat in a crude steel chair. She was wearing headgear with countless cables protruding from it. Her hands were tied to the back of the chair. Her head was locked in place with her chin tilted slightly upward. Not another soul was present in the room. Thus, all that could be heard were the sounds of Ayase's labored breathing and the metal groans of the chair she sat on. Yeah, those. Those right there. Saliva trickled down from the corners of her mouth, accompanied by moans akin to those of a beast's. If anyone were to hear them, they would never have been able to guess that they would be coming from a girl as young as her. Kill me! Kill me! She was being tortured. Slow, methodical torture. One that made very, very little sound. The method only involved one single thing, not even an action. A drop of water falling from above onto her forehead every 5 seconds on the exact same spot. That was all it took. And it would continue unrelenting for 2 full days. The result? Ayase could think only of the drop that would fall next. Her senses were sharpened to their limit, and each time a drop fell onto her forehead, another hallucination would be born. One in which each and every nerve across her body was plucked out one by one. One in which the bones of her entire skeleton crumbled to dust. One in which her head was pierced by a long, sharp awl. One in which all liquids within her body, including her blood, froze to ice. One in which the skin lining her entire body slowly rotted away before eventually peeling off. Assailed without end by these sensations, Ayase could no longer maintain her sanity. Yep, not good times. Returning to her senses, she breathed erratically as she tightly gripped the sheets lining the bed. Her body trembled as these dark memories of hers resurfaced in her mind. The nurse that had been in her room just a moment ago was already gone. Dinner time had just arrived at the hospital, and the clamorous sounds that came from it resounded from down the hall. Ayase tried to recall the words the nurse had spoken to her right before leaving. Was her headache really just a side effect of the drugs she was on? Or had it been caused by her hitting her head, perhaps? Or perhaps it was just a hallucination brought forth by her past memories. She was unable to come to a decisive conclusion. Wiping away the sweat that ran down her forehead, Ayase called forth a smile laced with self-loathing. It matters not. It is in the past. For I endured and survived my divine punishment. Funnily enough, Ayase sounds more like she's from a cult than Senna does. I will not let it control me anymore. Murmuring in perhaps delirium, Ayase soon became aware of a sound reverberating throughout the hall. The comforting sound of shoes stepping on the linoleum floor. Is this Senna or is it us? It was certainly not being made by a nurse, and the sound of footsteps was heading right for the room she was in. Someone knocked on the door, and she sealed her lips tight. Oh, here's Senna with a fruit basket. I meant Suwa. I keep saying Senna when I mean Suwa. Why are their names so the same? That someone was but a single man. He had come bringing gifts, namely a large basket filled with all manner of fruit. I meant Senna when I said in a cult, too. I could have said Senna and meant Suwa since they're both from a cult. But no, I actually did mean Senna that one time. Yeah, take your fruit and shove it up your ass. She could recognize the man, which was far from a good sign. Thus, she stared at him with a dubious glare. Here to manipulate us like you tried to manipulate Mia/Yua? Hi there! Oh, no need to be on edge, you know. I know who you are. The man was a detective at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. He had once shadowed Ayase, as she was originally a suspect for the New Gen case. The detective, relieved by her response, scratched his head. His demeanor was unendingly casual. Oh, wow, that's an ego boost. I'm so glad that such a pretty lady like you remembers little old me. You have a real good memory, huh? I'm impressed. The detective moved closer to her bed. Ayase briefly glanced at her D-sword leaning against the window. It lay just outside her reach. I mean, if that's a problem, you can move it. It's your sword. I just dropped by to check on you. I do not believe you. Good. What is your objective? Yikes! Talk about straight to the point. The detective flinched very overtly, his reaction perhaps bordering on theatrical. Well, I just had a little something to ask you, Ayase-chan. Right, I brought this. If you're up to it, you should really eat. The detective smiled innocently, presenting the basket he had brought with him, then placed it at Ayase's feet without waiting for approval. They're super tasty. And expensive, too. Boo-hoo.
いらない。
I do not want it.
まあそう言わず
Well,
せっか
crap.
く買ってきたんだ
Come on, let a guy show you some hospitality. I brought them just for you, you know.
後でお母さんが来た時にでも
Well, I don't mind if you leave them for when your mom visits. She can cut up a few slices for you then. See, that's a low blow. You know. Yeah, exactly.
しまっ
Oh, shoot. It's been years since you last saw your parents, hasn't it? Ayase-chan. Yeah, you knew what you were doing when you said that. Despite the detective's insensitive remark, Ayase felt nothing in response to it. Her ties to her parents had been cut from a very young age. Her parents had a reputation to uphold, so a child that often caused problems like Ayase had been inconvenient to them, to say the least. Are her parents going to matter? Are they going to be maybe some of those government officials we keep hearing Momose and Ban talk about? Her only remaining contact with them was the wire transfer she received for her living expenses each month, though it could hardly be called that.
申し訳ないっす
I'm really sorry. The detective apologized, bowing down hastily. Ayase had only just gotten over the shock caused by her flashback, so she was in no mood to speak with him. Nonetheless, she urged herself to talk all the same.
聞きたいことって
What is it you wanted to ask?
アリバイ
Do you wish for an alibi?
違うっすよそれは
Not at
前に
all.
散々聞いた
We've already talked enough about that.
もう綾瀬ちゃんの容
Nope,
疑は
I'm happy to announce that you're no longer considered a suspect, Ayase-chan. You're totally in the clear, I promise.
目星がついたの
Have you learned of their motive?
犯人の
The culprits.
それは教えられないんです
Sorry,
よ
but I can't tell you that. It's a confidential part of the investigation. Oh, you're not gonna have those same loose lips you had when you were talking with Yua?
匠
Is it Takumi?
秘密っす
Can't confirm or deny. The detective smirked. He was attempting to laugh the question away. And yet, something unrefined could be seen through the cracks of that smile.
しかし西条くんは不思議
That
な
said,
少年っす
Nishijukun
ね
sure is a weird kid, isn't he?
彼を見ていると殺人
You
の
wouldn't really
容疑者に
suspect him of being the killer based on how he looks.
もしあれで本当に犯
If
人
he
だ
really
と
is the
したら
culprit, then he's way too good at hiding his true nature. The guy would have to be a demon to be that good.
まだ容疑者なの
Is he still a suspect?
いやそういうわけじゃないっす
Nah, not really. The detective casually denied it with a smile, putting Ayase's persistent questions to rest.
あ今の話誰にも言って
Yeah, exactly. There's those loose lips. Oh, you didn't hear that from me, though. Whoopsie.
情報漏洩すると
My supervisors get real mad if they find out I leaked any info. Not that I would blame them.
この前も先輩の飛ばし
Besides, I only just got off the hot seat with my superior.
綾瀬ちゃんも一度会ってると思うん
I
です
think
け
you
ど
met him once before. You remember him, Ayase-chan?
バンさんっていう髪
Bon-san?
がボサボサ
The
で
detective with the
不祥事
scruffy
の
black
や
hair
つ
and the scubble. And also the fan. Ayase did remember him. When she had been questioned, that older detective had been even more talkative than the younger one she was conversing with now. His way of speaking had been a lot more assertive as well.
あの人がすぐこの
He's always pretty quick to yell at me. I swear I can't go one shift without him calling me a schmuck.
そのくせ自分は本来の捜査
Though I don't know why I'm the schmuck when he's the one going off on these wild goose chases instead of just investigating what we were assigned to do.
挙句の果てに自分まで
And as the sweet cherry on top, he's been forcing me to go along with him for all of it. Do you have a question for us?
最近胃が痛いんすよね
Feels like I'm gonna lose my mind if this keeps up.
いやまあ根はいい人
Well, I'm sure he's a good guy at heart. His intuition is razor sharp. From what I've heard, he's had to lead some pretty difficult cases in the past, so that's probably why he's turned so hard-boiled.
その話をするため
Is this what you wish to talk about?
ここに来たの
Why you came here? Yeah, Ayase's got no time for your shit. Ayase interrupted the man, and his smile quickly soured.
いや申し訳ないっ
Oh,
す
sorry. I got a little sidetracked.
今の話は全面
Please keep everything I just told you a secret. Do this, and I, Suwamoru, will be indebted to you for the rest of my life.
それで
So?
一つ目は
For starters... music cuts out. This is about the wizards, isn't it? Oh, just the jumping? Why'd you do it? Despite his ambiguous phrasing, Ayase could tell that he was referring to her diving off the school rooftop.
もう何度も話したわ他に
I already explained why several times. To the other detective.
邪神王グラジオール
To avert the resurrection of the wicked-hearted King Gladiol, right?
死ぬつもりなんて
I
な
did
かっ
not do it with the intention to die.
た魂を
I did it merely to ascend my spirit to a higher stage. You said something similar about your songs, too, yeah? The ones that are pretty popular with kids your age. And that was the second question he had for her. Ayase let out a faint sigh. Those lyrics were not about New Gen in the slightest. I merely wrote them based on the Gladiole book of Psalms and Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 102. The arrival of the wicked-hearted King Gladiole is nigh. This world shall soon know his presence. Only with 7 stakes forged in blackened blood shed by Gladiole himself may his resurrection be averted. I'm imagining a really big fight coming up. The stakes shall be reforged into swords, and the swords shall be bestowed upon the 7 black knights who withstood divine punishment itself. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. For only mortals burdened with wicked hearts may overthrow the wicked-hearted king. Wow, that sounds like something straight out of a movie! I love me a crazy epic storyline like that. Still amazed that Mizubi isn't one of these wicked-hearted guys. Ayase glared at the detective in response to his comment. It is not some sort of storyline. It is reality. Well then, I got one more question for you. The detective casually brushed away Ayase's objection, though she was all too used to this form of dismissal by now. Not a single person she had told this story to thus far had believed it. Big shock. You know, we've investigated a whole lot of other students at Sume other than you and Nishiji-kun, and well... The detective mumbled to himself as he folded his arms. This was very obviously another act of theatrics, and Ayase had no intention of commenting on it. What is it? Well, this is going to sound a little crazy. And it's not something a detective should be asking, really. And it's kind of childish, if I'm being honest. I see. If you do not intend to ask me something, then take your leave. My head hurts. Oh, okay, wait. What I was trying to say is, Bon-san said something very weird once. That you guys must be wizards or something. You're a wizard, Ayase. Upon hearing that the subject of that remark was plural, Ayase raised her eyebrows in suspicion. That's obviously not true, right? We are? I love that she's just like, yes, I am Iron Man. As she replied, Ayase's line of sight was directed not toward the man, but toward her hand that lay atop the bedsheets. You're a very interesting gal, Ayase-chan. But New Gen is wholly unrelated to the Knights of Gladiole. Gotcha. Well, not that it really matters either way. The detective, completely disinterested in what Ayase had just said, brushed off her words once again, then began to stretch. The moment he did so, a digital sound suddenly cut through the silence of the room. Why is Suzuki calling you? The detective, surprised by this interruption, reached into the pocket of his suit and took out his cell phone. Aw, geez, cell phones aren't allowed in here, huh? Shoot, I must have forgot to power it off. Are we gonna have a scene with you and Hazuki after this, since she's probably the one calling you? Because this never got followed up on in the main path. Oh man, and it looks like a certain girl's calling me. It's my lovely girlfriend. We've been together for 4 years now, can you believe it? He turned his phone off with a grin, forcing the caller to hang up. He then turned to Ayase once more. You a movie buff, Ayase-chan? Ever heard of Spark Wars? My ringtone's the Count Darth Spider theme from the movie, aka the thing you just heard. Ayase had no interest in movies nor anything of the sort. You can go now, Sua. Having long since decided that she had no obligation to further entertain the detective's questioning, she returned to gazing silently out the window. To be honest, I'm kind of a Spark Wars superfan. Oh, but judging from that, you're probably not interested. Sorry.
自分はこれで
Well, guess I'll get out of your hair now. See ya. I feel like whatever Sua came here to accomplish, Ayase just shut him down. He played Yua like a fiddle, but Ayase's just like, nah, I don't care. With that, the detective concluded the conversation with which he had no partner, and then left the hospital room. He's going to go lament to Hazuki about this. Ayase did not even turn around to watch him go. With the man gone, all that reflected in her eyes was the twilight sky slowly turning indigo. Come on, give me a scene with Sua and Hazuki after that phone call. Do it. Or are we just outside coming in now? I guess we're the trio. Yep, I guess we are. I'd showed up at school on Thursday for one reason and one reason only. To meet up with Mizumi-kun so we could go see Ayase in the hospital. Isn't Rimi with us? Granted, he had more or less forced me to take along, but I still figured that maybe Ayase could help me out too. Actually, I guess Rimi hasn't actually come back yet. We didn't really see her return. So maybe it's just us? Yeah, with Rimi seemingly out of the picture, I needed someone else to protect me, and Ayase was one of the candidates I had in mind. Ayase is preoccupied. Ayase's at a hospital. She ain't protecting no one. You can have her fruit basket if you want. So maybe, just maybe, if she had already recovered somewhat, she might have been able to do something to that effect. And on top of that, with her help, my chances of obtaining a real D-sword would skyrocket. I really couldn't do it on my own. Then again, it was Ayase herself who'd said obtaining a D-sword isn't something one can teach. But still, this was Ayase we were talking about here. Surely she could help somehow. Coming in through the front entrance, Mizumi-kun looked around the lobby in confusion. What's wrong? I called out to him. Well, I was just trying to figure out where Kishimoto's room was. Had he seriously come this far without knowing that? This guy was beyond belief sometimes. This is the outpatient ward. The hospital ward is next door. Moron. Shit, that right? So yeah, no Rimi this time. I guess we'll be missing some of the other interludes as well. No flapping towel, no black wall, no stupid sketch. A.H. Tokyo General Hospital. It was the hospital I'd gone to ever since I was a kid. I'd even come here just the other day, so I was pretty knowledgeable on where everything was. Dr. Takashina's face flashed across my mind, and I involuntarily groaned to myself. As we walked to the hospital ward, Mizumi-kun turned to me. So, which of these rooms is hers? How should I know? This was a general hospital, so there were obviously a ton of different wards and departments. If I had to guess, probably not the surgery ward. But she could maybe be in the psychiatry ward? There hadn't been any visible injuries on Ayase after she'd fallen. And considering she'd attempted suicide, her mind had likely been brought to the brink, so her being in the psychiatric ward seemed very possible. Even I'd been taken to the psych ward after the uproar at Ofront. You sure know your stuff, Taku. Thinking that wandering around the ward would cause problems for the patients, we decided to ask for help at the nurses' station. And just like I'd predicted, they told us that she was on the floor for psychiatric patients. Hey, remember what I told you? You know, fastest way to a woman's heart? Mizumi-kun grinned from ear to ear as the two of us walked down the hall. Was that seriously your only reason for visiting her in the hospital? Yes, blatantly. He's made this very clear. At least have the common sense to not talk about it out loud. Regardless, I think he'd said the fastest way was act like you cared in a moment of weakness or something like that. Today, I'll make sure to show that Ice Queen a real man. Mizumi-kun shot a pearly white smile and gave me a thumbs up. It didn't matter how confidently he said them. The words coming out of his mouth were totally disgusting, but I guess he could get away with it because of his good looks. Must be nice being an alpha male. Oh yeah, you and Kishimoto are pretty close, right? That's a stretch. She talked to us like twice. Come on, you can't fool me. Well, whatever. Just follow my lead. Put in some good words for me as we go. Something like, oh yeah, Mizumi Daisuke is such a great guy. I trust him with my life. Lay it on real thick. No. Oh, come on, don't say that. I'm on my hands and knees here, Taku. You don't look like you're on your hands and knees. Have a little restraint, will you? You're at a hospital, not a mixer. With him acting like this, was it even a good idea to have him see Ayase at all? It wasn't like she really cared much about him anyway. The pit in my stomach was getting deeper and deeper by the second. I think we're firmly in new dialogue territory here now. Oh shit! This one it? Mizumi-kun stopped in front of a door and pointed at the nameplate. It definitely did say Kishimoto Ayase. The door was closed, though, so we couldn't actually see who was inside. Is she going to be there this time? Last time she was out and about. Well, you going to talk me up once we're in? Yeah, sure, whatever. For the time being, I nodded in agreement. Although even if I did get the chance to say something to Ayase, I doubt I'd be able to say much, regardless of whether Mizumi-kun was there or not. Sup, Kishimoto-san? Mizumi-kun opened the door, greeting Ayase with a cheerful tone. Is she there? Is she even there? We came to visit. I guess not. But that tone didn't last very long. His face immediately froze. Wondering what made him stop, I decided to peer over his shoulder. I was about to say, is there going to be a scene? Like something happened where she's like injured or something? No. But now I have many questions. What on earth? How? Are they just having a girls' chat on the roof? Okay, so for anybody who's not watching and listening, we came into the hospital room. Nobody's here. Ayase's D-sword is leaning against the window. Rimi's D-swords are also leaning against the window. Nanami's D-sword is leaning against the window. What the F? Huh? I was not expecting that. The room was about 10 square meters in size. Past the entrance, there was a bathroom to the right and a bed in the back, and on the bed... Oh, maybe they are here. Maybe the sprites just haven't popped in yet. Nevertheless, I hope these guys are here because Takemi's not going to recognize two of those swords. He hasn't seen Nanami's sword yet, and he actually hasn't seen Rimi's sword yet either. Oh dear. Oh dear! Oh bad! Oh dear! On the bed sat Ayase, stained with blood from head to toe. Her hollow eyes pierced straight through us. Are these trophies? What the hell happened in here? We were gone 2 minutes. Yeah. Now how's that for a cliffhanger? Sorry for some of the repetition today. Some of it was worth going over again because it's Ayase time, but I promise next episode, it's all new stuff. I'll see you then.